But part of why I've just now threw all that math of measuring the letters is because the letters need to be evenly spaced. And the way I do it is I look at the area and I basically see it to be a certain length. And if you see the length, there is just a set amount of letters. And part of the problem, this is where you really start to hone in your lettering skills, is that when you look at it, letters like A are a little bit wider. Letters like I almost have no width, usually. So where you start to get quite a bit better at lettering is where you start to practice. And I know I just said they're all 5/32, and there was a lot of math just quickly. But what happens is that basically you look at an area, and in this case I said it's about 3.5 inches. Well, 3.5 inches, there are 20 letters in 3.5 inches. So 20 letters have to fit into 3.5 inches. And basically 20 letters in 3.5 inches means each letter is basically 1/8 of an inch. And obviously, as I just said, the I is not going to be quite 1/8 of an inch. The A will be a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. And all the rest will be, and basically, as I said, the spaces are basically going to be more than 1/8 of an inch. They're almost going to be 1/4 of an inch, because that's just the way that the lettering lays on the engine. So then what's important to do is you really need to start looking at the engine. Like, there's a characteristic to each letter. Like, the back of the letters have thickness to them, and the front is narrow. Like on the R, it has a big tall top and a narrow bottom. And this is where you start to get good at lettering a little bit too, is that big space. If you find that your lettering's a little too big or a little too small, use that space between the words to fudge a little. You might think everything has to be absolutely perfect, and the problem is it's really hard to see me lettering because of all those doors. And don't try to letter as fast as I'm lettering here. I just have to do it to keep the video kind of moving along. But as I lettered here, part of what happens is that I measured for it to end maybe about here, but the A ended up being a little bit wider. And because there's that much space, there's a lot of space in between the words, you can kind of fudge into the extra space. And then you can use the word east, start it right where it is. And you start writing the word east. And if the T's a little too big or a little too small, look at the next space and then look at how big the space is between Florida and east, and make the space between east and coast be the same size. So, because your eye will catch how big this space is and how big that space is. So make it all to be uniform, because again, as I said, it'll give it that machined type look.